Such an honor to be here as your second guest speaker, and you can bet that as soon as I am done with this slideshow, I'm going to call my parents and tell them that Bill Clinton was my opening act. What I really want to talk to you about today are the things that make you successful at Goldman Sachs, because those are the same things that make you successful in the mountains. Teamwork, leadership, determination, all of those things carry over from the business world to the mountains. And on the flip side, the things that allow you to survive in the mountains are the same things that help you stay alive in the business world. Dealing with a changing environment, thinking through very dicey situations without panicking, and staying very focused on your goals. And the goal of climbing any mountain, number one goal, always come back alive, right? Number two, come back with all your fingers and toes. Number three, come back as friends with the people that you're with. Number four, have a great time, great experiences along the way. And maybe goal number 5 is the summit, okay? You can't just be focused on the summit because it doesn't do you any good if you come back, you reach the summit and you don't come back alive, or you come back without toes or fingers. I mean, Mount Everest is not worth losing a finger for, okay? I got upset enough about a fingernail. When I started thinking about climbing to over 29,000 feet, to me, that was completely overwhelming, okay? And I didn't feel like I could do it. It was just too much to think about. So what I did in my mind is I just broke it down to manageable steps. So when you set a goal, think about how you're going to approach it and break it down into baby steps, okay? The first thing I did, I just worried about how we were going to get to base camp. I wasn't thinking about what we were going to do up high. How are we going to get to base camp, okay? Once we got to base camp, then I started thinking about what do I have to do to get to Camp 1. Once we're at Camp 1, then you think about what you're going to do to get to Camp 2, and you just focus on everything a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. It makes it much more manageable. The other thing that's really important in putting a team together to go to Mount Everest is putting the right team members together. And it's sort of like putting together your management team, right? You have to weigh people's raw talent, skill, and experience with their ability to be a team player. Because you don't want to go to Mount Everest with someone who's just a really, really great climber if they're not a team player. And on the flip side, you don't want to go to Mount Everest with someone who's really, really enthusiastic but doesn't have the right experience level and the right skills to be successful on the mountain, because up there, it really is a matter of life and death at times. And so it's finding that perfect balance of the people who are really skilled and really experienced, but who are also going to be very concerned with the team. Here's a few shots of the team. I'm 5'4". I was the tallest person on the team. We were so short that we could not fit into normal size extra small down suits, so we had to have them custom made. We liked them because we thought they were kind of flattering. The other thing that's crucial in climbing is using good judgment all the time. And you have to think about how every single decision that you make is going to affect everybody around you. And if you look at the business world now, the past few years, people have made interesting decisions that have brought down entire corporations. And in the mountains, the decisions that you make really can affect not just your own life, but the lives of everybody around you. So it's really important to think about the decision-making process and the decisions that you are going to make and how they affect everybody else, not just you. The first part of the route from base camp up to Camp 1, you go through this area called the Khumbu Icefall. And it's basically 2,000 vertical feet of these big, huge, moving ice chunks. And as the day progresses and it gets warmer, these blocks of ice move and they fall, and they're the size of apartment buildings or school buses. So you want to keep moving. You don't want to slow down. But it's hard because there are these ladders, and sometimes our feet were not big enough to span 2 ladder rungs. So it was scary. There's no other way to describe it other than it was just really scary for us to go across those ladders. We had gone through the Khumbu Icefall 7 times, the area with the ladders, 7 times with no problem. The last time we came through the icefall was a completely different story. Jody and I were out in front a little bit. The rest of the team was just a few minutes behind us. And all of a sudden we heard this sound like a big freight train. And we started to look around behind us, and all of a sudden about 10,000 tons of ice came crashing down. It was like the whole Khumbu Icefall was imploding. It came down, and Jody and I panicked. I mean, we were trying to figure out how we could run and get out of the way of all this falling ice. And there was really nowhere to run because there are ladders and crevasses everywhere. So we panicked, and there was a photographer from National Geographic there, and he saw us panicking, and he said, whoa, 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 don't move, stay where you are, do not move. And so we just stood there, and we hugged each other, and I swear the whole thing came to a stop about 4 feet from us. And I was completely hyperventilating, and I looked up, and I looked at this guy, and I said, oh my God, how did you stay so calm? And he said, oh, I knew it was going to be okay. And then about a month later, I read this article about the day the Khumbu Icefall collapsed, because it was a big deal. I mean, nobody had seen anything like that happen in the icefall. And people knew that the Ford women were in the icefall, and people didn't know if we were dead or alive. And so it was a big deal. So they wrote this article about the day the icefall collapsed, and I was laughing so hard when I read it because the guy who was there said, he was describing what happened, and he said, Jody and Allison panicked and looked for somewhere to run, but I urged them to remain calm because I knew for sure we were all going to die. And there was nothing anybody could do about it. Mount Everest, just a big pile of rock and ice, all right? That mountain's not going anywhere. It's always going to be there. You can always go back. But if you make a bad decision, you may not have the opportunity to go back. When people ask me about the worst part of this trip, I tell them about a day when this gentleman, his name was Peter Legat, he was part of a British expedition. He actually slipped and fell coming down the Lhotse face. He had been at Camp 3. They were coming back down. He slipped and he fell 1,500 feet and he died. And his teammates came running to our camp for help. But there was nothing that anybody could do because basically this guy's body was in pieces at the bottom of Lhotse. His blood was still all over the route. And that for us was by far the toughest time because we realized that this mountain is a lot bigger than we are. And we thought, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be here. And I was thinking, I wanted to come to Everest and I wanted to motivate people and I wanted to inspire people. But maybe I should just write poetry or something because it would be a lot safer than being on this mountain. And we thought about Peter, we thought about his family. Everybody was really upset. We took a day off from climbing and we just spent the day crying basically. And I think that was maybe a point where we thought about turning around. But then we thought about it more, and we went back to that whole message about we are here to send a message about teamwork, about having the right attitude, about setting lofty goals, and we are here to send a message about what a group of women can do when they lock arms and work together. And so we decided that we weren't going to turn around, that we were going to continue on.